Hi, this is Geshe Michael Roach, and welcome to this little talk about the practice of the thousand angels of the heaven of bliss. And I know you guys have about another week or two before you're going to go into your 3-day weekend retreat. And I know that you'll be using the practice of the thousand angels in your 3-day retreat. And I just wanted to talk about it. You know, we've been through the steps of it many times, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. And I think I was trying to remember the first time I ever did this practice myself, and the time that my teacher taught it to me. And I remember it was a little bit, it felt a little bit strange, because it was some Tibetan guy. And I was supposed to, close my eyes and picture this Tibetan guy. And of course, my teacher had many paintings of this ceremony. You know, there's Jetson Kappa up on some clouds. And then he's coming out of the heart of Maitreya. And then I'm supposed to think about this Tibetan guy and imagine that he's coming down. And then I do all these nice things for him. And it was very foreign to me. I didn't feel close to the people that they were describing. I didn't know Tibetans very well. And recently, I was working on a text about emptiness meditations. And somebody asked me, Veronica, my wife, asked me, well, where did Tibetan come from? You know, you're always talking about Sanskrit and how we can get English words out of Sanskrit. And then she said, I'm just curious about where did the Tibetan come from? And I have to say, I've heard people say it just dropped out of the sky. And Tibetans will tell you something like that, that it just dropped out of the sky. And then you read, if you go online, you'll see people say, oh, it's Burmese, Tibeto-Burmese language group. But that doesn't really help. It just spread a little bit in towards Burma. And it really does, seem that it just dropped out of the sky linguistically. It's not related to anything in the world that I know of. It really does seem like it's from another planet. And I spent the last 2 days in a hospital. A friend of mine is undergoing some difficulties. And a couple of friends of mine have got some serious illnesses. And they've asked me to help them. And it got me thinking about this world, and these are people who are close to me. And one of them is not close to me, but they heard about me and they keep writing me letters, emails about what's going to happen to them. And then I was thinking about it myself and how to explain it to them. And I think at a certain age, if you spend a lot of time around people who are dying, who are seriously ill, and they trust you and they're asking you for advice, and they're like, what's going to happen to me and what's it going to be like? And I think only when you have someone talk to you, your phone just did a clunky thing. Yeah, that's from another world too. Sorry. Then something happened to me in the last few days, and that I just became really aware of different realms, and I've been trying to explain to someone what's going to happen to them when they die. And when you think about someone leaving this world, then this world becomes, I don't know, in my mind, it becomes like a pocket or some kind of a pocket. And there's other worlds, other pockets around it. and there's little, almost like submarine hatches between the pockets, and then you die in this pocket, and then you're going to go through one of those hatches to a different pocket that we can't see, and then I don't know if I'll ever see you again, or anytime soon, because there's probably millions of pockets like that, and you're going to go through a small hatch or doorway, and you're going to pass to a different pocket, a different reality, and we may not see each other again. Like, there's no reason to think there's just one world. There are many, many worlds, and they may touch each other like eggs in a carton, but they're completely separate, and they're different, and you will go to a different world, and there will be different things there and different people there, and it may be completely different from the world you're in now, and you can go there anytime, and one of the people who's been writing me, who is not a Buddhist, and they're not interested in Buddhism, but they are dying, and they found out about me through a relative, and they were strong, a healthy, young, successful filmmaker, very famous in his field, and then just suddenly he's got some kind of terrible stomach cancer, and they say he'll die in a few months. And he just, he has a beautiful son and a beautiful wife, and they're both filmmakers. And he's asking me, well, what's going to happen? Where am I going to go? And it's kind of interesting that I don't know, for some reason he thinks I can tell him. And then he's really being good about listening to me, And so it's kind of sometimes I've had that in my life where someone will come to me and say, I have a terrible disease and I only have a few weeks, and can you help me? And they're almost the best students, right, JB? Because they really listen and they really do what you tell them. So I'm trying to get you in the mood of, somehow this Tibetan things came to us. And even as a language, it seems that they dropped out of another world, like all of these teachings that we have in Tibetan language just dropped out of another world. And John Brady and his team, today they're working on grants. I'm trying to push them to break into another library in Mongolia that has 300,000 books there. And it's just like, I can't stand it to think that those books are there and they might burn up tomorrow, or something might happen. And it just drives me crazy, like, wow, we have to try to get those books. And then I think about those books, and they also seem to be from another world, like it just seems like they're not from this normal world, and they're unique. Those books are very unique. So why am I talking about that? The practice of the 1,000 angels is kind of like you're trying to open up a little doorway to another world. And I have to say something about Tibetans that maybe you don't know. I lived with Tibetans for 25 years, and I was surprised about some things, and one is that as a country, they're not different from any other country. Okay, I'm sorry to say that, but there's no big difference between Tibet and America and Russia and India and China. There's not big difference. The country as a country is not much different, And I was very, kind of disappointed, I was disappointed when I got to know normal Tibetan people, and I started talking with them and seeing how they lived, and there's just about like everybody else, There's good people, there's really bad people, there's greedy people, there were wars, there was terrible killing and hurting people, and it's not different from Europe or America, or it's not different. The people are basically the same, but they have this one doorway to another world, And I don't know why, but it just came through Tibet. So I mean, if you ever have to live in Tibetan society and deal closely with Tibetan, even in a monastery, it's disappointing. They're just pretty normal, and they have the same kind of very sad things going on there that go on every place else. But there's this one doorway that they learned how to open, and that's, to me, we're talking about Tsongkhapa. So I mean, even the name Tsongkhapa, when I started to learn about Tsongkhapa, it was very uncomfortable, and I'm like, and they can't even agree how to spell it, right, John? Yeah, everyone wants to spell it a different way, and I mean, nobody's name starts with TZ anywhere, It's just weird. And it's hard to remember when you're new, to remember that name. And why didn't they call him John or something easy? It's just Tsongkhapa, And it felt strange and foreign to me when I first learned it. And it felt kind of distant, like I would never be able to. I couldn't see that I felt too close to this person, and I didn't feel that attracted to them. My teacher was insisting that I should try to learn about Tsongkhapa and study about Tsongkhapa and read Tsongkhapa's books, and I should try to get a personal relationship with Tsongkhapa, which is what you're trying to do in these 3 days. You're trying to get a personal relationship with Tsongkhapa. And I just want to say, I don't know where you're from, Russia, China, wherever you're from, Mexico, but it's weird. There's somebody named Tsongkhapa, and they wear strange clothes, and they it's not something easy to relate to. It's not something from our culture. It's a totally different thing. And then I struggled with that, and I'll be honest about it. In the first few years that I spent in the small Mongolian monastery, I struggled with that, and I didn't feel very close to Tsongkhapa, and it was very foreign. And I didn't know much about him, and all I heard was he wrote a lot of books, and they were complicated and difficult, and I wasn't attracted to it. But the point of this practice is that I can tell a story of Tsongkhapa, right? And Tim, you got an image, I think. The first one, maybe. Yeah, this is a nice story, and I think the DCI people know it. So Tsongkhapa wanted to have a relationship with Manjushri. And Manjushri, again, that's some kind of foreign word and foreign name and foreign person. And I remember trying to learn his name, and all the Westerners in my class already knew his name. And I felt uncomfortable that they knew his name and I didn't know his name. So they must know who he is, but I don't know who he is. And everybody would say, oh, he's the God of wisdom. I'm like, well, what's the God of wisdom? And so Tsongkhapa is, I think he's the person with his hands like this in the middle. And he wants to meet Manjushri. So he heard that Manjushri understands emptiness. And he really wants to meet him. And he's kind of not like you and me. Like Tsongkhapa's not thinking, oh, I would like to, meet a teacher who can explain about Manjushri to me. He's not thinking like that. He's thinking, well, if the source from another world about emptiness teachings is Manjushri, this is So Tsongkhapa, then I want to meet him myself. I'll just tell me where he lives and I'll get in touch with him. And, I don't need all you guys to tell me what Manjushri said, And so he goes around asking everybody, I'm glad you're offering me classes. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot, but could I just talk to Manjushri directly? And then everybody says, well, that takes years of practice. And he says, well, is there anybody who actually did it? And that's the kind of dumb, smart question that new people will ask. And later, when you get more experience, you stop asking. But I think you should ask. And he said, well, can't I just meet him directly? And then somebody said, well, there is a guy who met Manjushri. There is such a person. And then he says, well, just tell me his address and I'll go talk to him. And they're like, he doesn't have an address. And he's like, what do you mean he doesn't have an address? And it says he's up on the Sedona Mountains somewhere. He's wandering around with a bunch of sheep. He doesn't have a house. He just keeps sheep in the mountains. If you go wander around the mountains, you might run into him. It's so funny, right? Like, just there's one mountain, there's another one, there's another. Good luck, And he says, well, okay, what's his name? And they say Umapa, which kind of means master of the middle way, right? His name means kind of master of the middle way, but he's a sheep herder, And so Tsongkhapa's like, okay, let me go try to find him. And that picture, Tim, you got it? They should have put it in a meadow on a mountain somewhere, but anyway. Tsongkhapa meets Umapa, and he says, I heard that you got direct contact with Manjushri. Now, I heard that you can talk to him directly. And Umapa says, yeah, I just imagine he's like, yep, Allah got that, because he's probably no teeth. He's just a sheep herder up in the mountains. Like, yeah, I'm direct contact. Yeah, that's me. And so Tsongkhapa's like, do you mind if we just confirm this? And can you put the picture back? This is the moment of confirmation. Tsongkhapa says, look, I'll ask you questions about emptiness. And then you ask Manjushri what he thinks. And I'll ask you some difficult questions I have. And then you talk to Manjushri. And then I'll judge from your answers whether you're in contact with Manjushri or not. So unfortunately, we don't have the questions. It would make a good movie. So he starts asking questions, and then Umapa starts answering. And the answers are perfect. The answers are totally perfect. And then Tsongkhapa's like, oh my God, you really are in contact with Manjushri. And then, of course, he writes down all the answers. He incorporates them into some of his greatest books on emptiness. And then he gets kind of impatient. He says, well, how about I just talk to Manjushri directly? Can you introduce me to Manjushri? And Umapa says it doesn't work like that. You don't have the karma. You don't have the seeds to see Manjushri. You can't just ask me to introduce you to Manjushri. It won't work. He could be sitting next to you. He is sitting next to you, and you can't see him because you don't have the seeds. So it's not like I can make an introduction. You have to make the seeds. You have to collect the seeds to meet him, and then everything will be awesome. Then it'll really be awesome. So I encourage you to make the seeds. And he helped him to make the seeds. And the biggest seed of all is to realize that it takes seeds to meet Manjushri. That's all. the biggest seed to meet Manjushri directly is to understand emptiness enough to understand that Manjushri is coming from you, you know. And so if you really want to meet Manjushri, you can. You just have to plant the seeds. And the most powerful seed is to believe you can. Okay? Takpa Niljo, what's that mean? $500. Tim got it, $500. Okay. Collect from Ellie, okay. $500 for the young man. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Takpa Niljo means, yeah, it starts by believing that it could happen. You know, you just kind of pretend that it could happen. And Tsongkhapa does it. Why are we talking about that? We're supposed to be talking about the practice of the 1,000 angels and, you know, trying to make contact with Tsongkhapa. And again, what I want to say is that for me, I'm stuck in this little Mongolian temple in New Jersey. And here's these people talking about this guy whose name I can't pronounce. And they're trying to prove to me that this is going to save my life. And I never heard of him at Princeton. And, you know, I'm like, you sure, you know? And then Rinpoche taught me the Ganden Lagama, the 1,000 Angels practice. And these are 7, 8 steps that you do before a meditation practice. And it's called Sakjang, okay? Say Sakjang. Yeah, and you guys know Sakjang, I think. Sak means collect good new karma. The word Sok comes from Sak. So when you do your Sok twice a month, by assembling great quantities of offerings, which is called soaking them, that's called Sak. And then Jang means like Sojong comes from Jang, which means to confess your bad deeds. So the whole practice of the 1,000 angels is to Sakjang, you know. On one hand, you want to try to accumulate a big pile of good seeds. And then Jang means you want to clean away a big pile of bad seeds. And if you do enough collecting new seeds, and if you get rid of enough bad seeds, then the door opens to another realm. And Tsongkhapa shows up in your life, personally in your life. You see, so the purpose of this ritual is to make contact, direct contact with Tsongkhapa the way he did with Manjushri, right? So you're trying to get the portal to open. And it's a lot easier if you know how it works, okay? It's not that Tsongkhapa's waiting for you to ask politely, or Tsongkhapa refuses to come to your meditation room if you don't do the 1,000 angels 1,000 times first, and then on the 1,000th time he'll come. It's not like that. It feels like that when you're new. When you're just starting, it feels like, okay, I'm going to have to do 500 of these, or I'm going to have to do 600 of these. And then maybe Tsongkhapa will be happy and come visit me, you know. But it's not like that. It's that you have to open the door to get him to come. And you open the door by doing the ritual, okay? By repeating this ritual. And I'll be honest, you know, I just did it out of respect for my teacher. He said, do this practice, and I was not attracted to it, and I didn't see much point to it. I waited a long time before I did my retreats because I wasn't attracted to it. I just thought it was kind of superstitious, and I thought, just okay, I recited it 25 times, nothing happened, and I just felt it was kind of artificial. But if you can get into the actual practice, uh, then Tsongkhapa does come, okay? And he's cool. So I know he has a strange name. I think Jay Rinpoche might be easier, right? Let's call him Jay Rinpoche. That's his other name, which means precious one or something like that. But I just want to encourage you to do the practice, because if you do it in a relaxed, happy, creative way, the door does open to another realm. And he comes and he starts talking in your head, and it's really cool. Okay, so you can meet those people, and he is amazing. So let's talk about Tsongkhapa. And we just finished, right, editing a book about him. We wrote a book, I don't know, 20 years ago. We translated a book about his life, and we made a big, thick, expensive book as a fundraiser to help this little Mongolian temple. And we sold all the books finally, and I think it was $100,000. And we gave all the money to the temple. We saved some money to print the book again. And recently we were editing the book. We were cleaning it up to make it into a. Now that we sold all the copies to help the temple, we were making a big paperback book, coffee table book, and we'll be releasing it, I think, on New Year's party. At the inshallah, at the New Year's party in Singapore. And let's talk about that book. And in the book, you can read, basically, it's a lot. The biography of his life is a story about writing books, So here's this great master, and he did do other things than write books. He went into deep retreats, and there's a beautiful painting of him in a koa. Koa means a leather coracle in English. It's a boat made of a skin of a cow. And it must be scary, I don't know. They don't have bridges in Tibet, and they have the most rivers of anywhere in the world, the most streams. You can't walk 5 miles without crossing a couple of rivers. So you jump in one of these little personal boats. It's round, and then somebody pushes you over, and then you get out and you keep going. So there's a beautiful picture of him and his 8 closest disciples going to Yarmalung, which is a place that he did a retreat. There's also a picture, Tim, you got it there. I think it's the last picture you have. And before he went to retreat, he was having some physical problems. And I think that's kind of encouraging that Tsongkhapa had physical problems. And he had bad back. He had a bad back. His whole life he had a bad back. And it was hard for him to meditate. And it's hard for him to do retreat. And here he's meeting a yoga master. And he's offering him a mandala. And I think that's very important in your retreat, okay? When you do your 3-day retreat or a 3-year retreat, I've been having fun doing yoga with Kami, the director of Yoga Studies Institute, and John Brady. Every day we've been doing yoga together, and it's a great practice. So if you're gonna do this 3-day retreat, I really encourage you, do what Tsongkhapa did, and take care of your health. You got to have a physical body to do the 1,000 Angel practice and to make contact with Tsongkhapa. you have to have a healthy physical body. So you have to take good care of your body, and you only get one. So it's really important every day to do some physical practices and to eat carefully and to get enough sleep. That helps you open the door. So you do see a lot of other paintings of Tsongkhapa doing different things, but the main thing was writing books and studying books. And I want to tell you a story of a book I'm working on right now. So I'm in a group of translators called Mixed Nuts, and we decided to try to translate maybe the 20 most important books in the world, from ancient Buddhism. And so I got like 10 fools, including Seiji. What do you call it in Spanish? Loco. Personas locos. And, I said, let's translate the 20 greatest books of Buddhism together. And some of the Mixed Nuts had no experience in Tibetan translation, like Seiji, like zero. He didn't know any words. And I said, well, let's just start. And so we've been working really, really, really hard for 5 years. And there's about 10 main translators, and they all have a very difficult book to translate, and they're all struggling. I'm really amazed and grateful that no one has quit yet. So I don't know why. I don't have a good record in the past. Most of the people who learned to translate with me quit. And but none of these 10 people has quit, which means an intense amount of work for me, like hundreds of hours of work. Just the classes and the class preparation is 500-600 hours of work, and it's intense. And then people I know are asking me, can you do this, Geshe-la? Can we have a meeting? Can we just talk for 10 minutes? Can we go out and have coffee? Can you come over to my house? Someone told me recently, they live in Sedona. They said, I see Stanley Nelson more than I see you, Geshe-la. They live in China, right? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's intense. The amount of work is intense, And then the question is it a good spiritual practice to spend your whole day in books? It seems like Tsongkhapa's thing, that he was spending most of his day in books and not really meeting a lot of other people and not socializing and not getting to see the people's real lives. And it seems almost artificial to spend your whole day in books. And it also seems too technical. It seems, Geshe-la, if that's what it takes to meet Tsongkhapa, if I have to read those thousands of pages that the Mixed Nuts are spitting out, it just doesn't seem practical. It seems like it's too scholarly. And so I wanted to say, as a method of reaching those other worlds, it's fantastic, okay? And I know it's not a popular thing to say, and I know those books are difficult books. They are difficult books. They are really difficult books. But I wanna say it's our lineage, okay? It's Tsongkhapa's method to put your head in those books a couple hours a day and struggle, okay? It's not easy. It's not easy. It's difficult. And it's hard. It's just hard to sit there. It's hard to read hour after hour things that you don't understand. It's just frustrating. And I don't know. It's like trying to read a foreign language, and 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 you can't get it. There's foreign languages and you can't. French, right? I decided 3 times to learn French, or Chinese, and it's frustrating, and it doesn't seem very mystical, and it doesn't seem very sweet, and rasa, right? It doesn't have much flavor. Uh, but I want to describe what happens, okay? And I think it happens to Tsongkhapa. If you read his life story, uh, we are trying to invite, with the practice of the 1,000 angels, we are trying to invite to our meditation room a person who spent many, many years deep inside those ancient classics that John Brady's been saving. And because of that, he found a door. It created a door to meet these beings from another world, okay? And Tibet as a country, as a, what do you call it? Governmental structure, it's lousy, okay? It's it's like below average, I'm sorry. As a country, it's kind of dysfunctional. And that's not the point of what's going on in Tibet. The point is that there are people there who worked on these ideas, struggled through those great books day after day, and the karma of that was that they opened a window to another world, you see? And people came from another world and helped them. And we can do it too. So when you do the practice of the 1,000 angels, what's really happening is that you are trying to open a door, and then you will meet these unbelievable people from another realm, and they are not like us, and it's even uncomfortable to be with them because they're so good. It's frustrating, and you feel what do you call it? You feel like an idiot when you're sitting with them, and so I really want to encourage you to learn this practice, and I know it's very foreign. I know it's not a language that we're familiar with. I know even the main guy's name is hard to pronounce. But without being romantic and, what do you call it, sentimental, you can open a window to another world. And those Himalayas, they were Shangri-La. They were a real doorway to another world. And again, I'm not attracted to Tibetan country as a country. It's just another country. It's not different from any country you've been to. But the doorway is there. And if you practice the 1,000 angels, you can open that doorway. I'm not gonna, I personally, I've taken you through those steps in the 1,000 angels many times. I kind of want to talk about something else today. You can do those on your own, and you don't need me to explain to you, which flower is blue and which flower is red, that you're going to be offering. You can do that. But I'd like to talk about an experience. So I've been translating, I've been helping prepare a book by, it's being translated by Venerable Utpala, Beth Greer. And she's been working on this book for about 5 years. And many of you have been through the classes. And it was hard. The book was hard. And going through, it's supposed to be a book of emptiness meditations. And we worked on it. Many of you guys came to the classes. And, we spend an hour, we go about half a page. We can't understand much. I know the words, I can explain it to you, but it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And she finished her book, and then I have to kind of work on the translation, make it smooth. And so I have a pleasant duty that I have to go through and, make the whole translation. I have to really connect the 5 years of classes into one beautiful flow. And that's my job. And so I started, and then starts blowing my mind. I start seeing this pattern. I taught the book to her for 5 years, and I didn't see the pattern. And now I have to lay the whole thing out. I'm like, oh my God, And it's 25 emptiness meditations. And they're stunning. They're just stunning, And it's not 1 or 2 proofs of emptiness. It's 25, one after another, And they're deep. They're very, very deep. And if you can't just, if you don't spend time with them, you don't get it. One and many. Things are not one. And things are not more than one. Things are not one. And things are not more than one. Really. Why? Because they have parts. Okay? Things are not one. Nothing in the world is one thing. And nothing in the world is more than one thing. Because they have parts. Everything has parts, And then they go on like that, It's a long, oh my God, 25 proofs. And then there's another flow under it, which is through the great 4 schools. So sometimes you get the same argument taught from a different school. So he repeats the argument of one and many 3 times, but from different schools. And then it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. And then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, I get it, I finally got it, And then he says, wait, let me tell you something else. And you're like, okay, I got it. I got 25% emptiness in my head, and I understand it. And I just used it with my wife, That's the cool thing, right? It's like, oh my God, I got it. In the morning, I translated it. And in the afternoon, I used it when she asked me why I didn't do the laundry or something. And I actually took one of those proofs of emptiness, and I secretly used it. And I opened a portal to another world by using it. And I was so, wow. I was like, wow, that's cool. Oh, you have parts. Your laundry has parts. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, I got it. Oh, and then the author, who is called Chone Lama, right? He lived 250 years after Tsongkhapa, okay? But I think he was Tsongkhapa, okay? I think he was Tsongkhapa. And a lot of the books we're translating, Seiji Nos, they are from Chone Lama. And he's like Tsongkhapa, but more accessible. He's more reachable. And so he says, hey, you like the 25? Worked with the laundry, huh? Like, you get to know these guys, You're like, hey, I worked with the laundry and your wife, right? You say, yeah. It was, it didn't just work. It was like opening a door to another world in the washroom. And then he's like, well, let me show you something else. And then he goes through 15 proofs of, 15 mistaken proofs of emptiness. Slightly defective emptiness proofs. And that's so cool. He says, hey, I got a proof for you. How about this one? And you go, you read it. And then he says, how do you like that one? And you're like, sounds great to me. And he says, nah, it's messed up. And you're like, why is it messed up? And he says, well, look at this little thing here. It doesn't work. And you're like, yeah, I never thought of that. That doesn't work, does it? So after he teaches you 23 correct proofs of emptiness from all 4.5 schools of ancient Buddhism, then he says, hey, let's do some messed up proofs. Let's go through some messed up proofs. I'll mess something up and you tell me what's messed up. And then you're like, I don't see anything messed up. And then he takes you through 15 different messed up proofs of emptiness that you've probably said to your friends many times. And it's just awesome, And then you're like, oh man, I'm so happy. And I'm almost at the end of the book and I can send it off to Ellie to get it printed, Everyone's going to be so happy. And then at the end of the book, he says, I forgot to tell you how to meditate on the emptiness. And you're like, how's he going to do that with 2 pages left? How's he going to teach you how to meditate with 2 pages left? And then he says, well, I don't really have space in the book anymore to tell you how to meditate on it. I'll tell you there's 3 steps to the meditation. First you have to learn the book. Okay? You must get a hold of an emptiness book and you must spend time with a qualified teacher and read it. And you have to struggle with those ideas. You have to struggle. Learn the correct ones, learn the wrong ones, struggle why this is correct, this is wrong, struggle with why this school explains the same proof different from that school. Struggle with those things, okay? That's called shruti, right? Learning in the classroom hours, okay? And then I want you to go to Sampa, right? What is that? Chintaya, something. I want you to contemplate what you learned. And for me, that's when I'm driving. I don't know, driving, Veronica swears by it. She says, driving's my meditation time. It's actually contemplation time. If you meditate, you'll crash. So she's like, she mulls things over. She thinks things over in the car. And it's a really sweet practice, okay? So you're like, wow, so I'm having trouble with this jewelry thing. And let's see, does it have parts? And is it empty? And you do that in the car. And then you get to that. And then he says, then you can get to, then you can meditate on what you contemplated on. When you get home in the car, then get out of the car and take 20 minutes on your cushion and go into it deep and see if you can see it in meditation. What you learned in the car that you learned from the book. And then he stops the book. Chonilam stops the book, So I was frustrated, and I said, this is kind of dumb. We're going to call this book Emptiness Meditations. And there's 38 proofs of emptiness. And there's 3 sentences about meditation. Then, that's not going to go over. Let's add the meditation section from Pabonka Rinpoche to the second half of the book. Let's add it to the book. So then you get, in the first half of the book, like 200 pages, you get emptiness proofs. And then you get 200 pages of how to meditate. All the details of how to meditate, And I said, oh, wow, that's what we'll do. We'll add Pabonka Rinpoche's explanation because it's also, I've taught it so many times that I could translate it with my eyes closed. And I said, I'll just knock that out, And so, that's going to be 200 more pages. And then I thought, well, he based his meditation description on Kamala Shila's stages of meditation. And there's a beautiful chart. There's a beautiful carving of all the stages of meditation. And They kept it in the Mongol. I shouldn't say. Anyway, I ran into this chart once, and and I copied it. I mean, I took photographs of it, and I learned what it meant. I learned to read it, and so I said, "Well, let's put the chart in the book, and that will be beautiful for people, and I'll translate the whole chart." So we did. We got the whole chart, and we put it in the book, and then I was like, "Well, this chart comes from Kamalashila," and it's interesting because he's an Indian who was a great meditator and a great emptiness master and a great mind only master. And, you guys read his commentary. We went through his commentary on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And he actually went to Tibet and he had some interesting debates with people and stuff like that. So he was passionate about teaching people meditation. And then he wrote 3 famous books, as John knows. He went and got them for me, called The Stages of Meditation. And they kind of overlap. You can tell they might be manuals that he prepared for DCI, SCIM, and ACI. And so it's the same stuff in a different package. And then there's a 4th one, a very beautiful one that he wrote. So I was looking at those, and I was like trying to choose which one to translate. And then I noticed there's another stage of the meditation in the Tengyur from ancient India. And this is, I said, well, I wonder who wrote that. In Nagarjuna. Okay, Arya Nagarjuna. I said, oh my God, there's another book on how to meditate written by the greatest emptiness master of all time. Wow, let's go look at that, And it's got the same name as Kamalashil's 3 books, It's the same name. So I'm like, wow, I wonder if Kamalashila ripped his off from Nagarjuna. And the way I'm ripping mine off of Kamalashila. And the way Pabonga and me ripped off of. Okay, and so I went and read that one. And it's a stunning book about the stages of meditation, heavily mixed with emptiness teachings, heavy emptiness teachings, and how to meditate. So you got this thing, you see, you could learn the posture of retreat, learn everything about how to meditate from Pabonka Rinpoche. Then use the chart, put the chart in your meditation room, and use that every day to work on your meditation. And then go through Kamalashila's meditation book, and then go through Nagarjuna's book with the same name, but deeper on the emptiness part, and then slide into Chani Lama, 38 Proofs of Emptiness, which is really just Tsongkhapa recooked. You see what I mean? So you get this whole picture of a huge work, half Vipassana, half Shamatha. First half, how to see emptiness. Second half, how to get into meditation to see emptiness. So now you've got 200 pages on Vipassana, how to see emptiness. And then you got 200 pages on how to meditate, Shamatha, okay? So really, it's this, now poor Betts's book has become this great, incredible book. It's a real emptiness meditation book. So half of it is how to understand emptiness. And then half of it is how to meditate, which is the great marriage of Vipassana and Shamatha. Vipassana, insight into emptiness. Shamatha, quietude, getting silence. Silence and insight matched together in one book. Guess who did that before? So Karpa's in a retreat, and he's like, God, we should make a book that's 50% Vipassana and 50% Shamatha, you know? And he writes like, it would be about 1,000 pages in English. It just knocks it out, And then I don't know. My is like, "Hey, why don't you do the first four perfections? Throw it in there, Let's call it Lam Rim, So he's got emptiness teaching, shamatha joined together, and then Madhusha says, tack on this Lam Rim stuff at the beginning, huh? And so that's what Tsongkhapa did. So that's what Tsongkhapa was up to. Why am I talking about that? Well, first of all, I'm obsessed with it nowadays. But secondly, use it when you do your Thousand Angels practice, okay? Try to understand that you are going to be doing, let's go through it, okay? First, Chaksa Welshing, Church and Shakpatang. Jeso Yirang. These are the 7 steps, right? First one, Chaksawa. Yeah, bow down to, how much time I got left, right? 18? Okay, we got time. So, the basic structure of the Thousand Angels practice, which I would like you to do with a special mantra called Om Mani Padme Hum, and I'll explain more about that. First thing, how to get this guy to come through the doorway from the other realm. There's a certain etiquette. In the New Testament, the Bible, Jesus always washes his disciples' feet when they show up, which is very unusual for the master. And we kind of got to do the same thing. It's like cookies for Santa Claus under the tree. I don't know about you, but my family was very serious about Christmas cookies for Santa Claus. One night I went out to see Santa Claus and I saw my dad eating them. But anyway, first thing, prostrate to Tsongkhapa. Now I feel uncomfortable prostrating. I did grow up Christian. And one of the rules in Christianity is not to bow down to, unapproved objects. And so I always felt uncomfortable to do prostration. But really, the first step of the Gandhanhagyama is just to admire Tsongkhapa. And that's a prostration, okay? And that's all. If you want to get some exercise, then prostrate. But the real prostration is just to admire this guy. The real way to get him to come through the portal and show up in your meditation room, which is possible, okay? That's what I'm trying to say today. It is possible. You can get him there. And it's awesome. First thing you have to say, God, you're so cool. You're just so cool. All the stuff you did. Mainly that you taught us emptiness and how to meditate. That you brought that into this world from your world. That was cool. So if you just admire him, you did the first one. Chaksa Welshing, Che means chupa. Yeah, make some kind of offerings. And I know it's a tradition to offer water cups and fruit and, stuff like that. I was never much into it, I'll be honest. I did it. I can make a torma as good as anybody. But what Tsongkhapa really wants from you is an offering of your goodness. So he wants to hear that you called somebody in the hospital, or that you washed the dishes, or at the building after everybody else left, right, Nor? And the other roaches were running around, if you don't. And, that's the kind of offering that Tsongkhapa really wants, Oh, my neighbor was pissing me off, and I went out and talked to him and asked him about his family, and I admired his new truck with the decals on the back. And, that's a great truck. I did, okay. And that's the kind of thing, that's the offering Tsongkhapa wants, you know. Okay, it's okay if you're meditating and you're in a 3-day retreat. Okay, get some fruits and donuts and stuff. Uh, and make offerings. That's fine. That's good. My teacher would spend 2 or 3 hours at the grocery store checking every kind of cookie, the whole aisle, every kind of cookie. And then he would decide on one, and then he would carefully stand there for half an hour and look through the plastic and try to see if any of them were chipped, because it's improper to offer a chipped cookie to Tsongkhapa. And, so they should be perfect. That's fine. But also don't forget that what Tsongkhapa really likes for offerings is some small thing you did, like wash the dishes at the college building after everybody else dumped them on you, okay, and went home. And you're trying to hold a baby and wash it with one hand. It's like, that's good yoga. You don't have to have barbells. Okay. Shakpa. Yeah, then confess mistakes you've made. If you think you haven't made any mistakes, that proves you're not meditating. Because you make mistakes all day. And you repeat mistakes your whole life. I'm 60-something years old. And I can tell you, 68, you repeat the same mistakes every year over and over again. And if you can't think of any mistakes to tell Tsongkhapa, then you've reached a real mindless meditation. Okay, so, tell him the stuff you've done that you're not proud of and get it out of the way. Okay, that he enjoys talking to people who will admit that they made mistakes. And if you're the kind of person who wants to pretend you're perfect, okay, but when you die, it's going to be messy. Okay, so just be honest about who you really are. Tell Tsongkhapa all your mistakes. Normally, we tell everybody our second worst mistake, and we hide our first worst mistake. So. But with Tsongkhapa, you can tell them the worst one. Okay, Taxawasi Chishin Shapana. Jeso Yudong. What's that? Yudong. Yeah, rejoice. Be happy about it. There's so much good in the world, There are news outlets that talk about the great things people do. You got to work hard to find them. They're not very well known. They're not very popular. But there are news channels on the internet that honestly report not grand good deeds by people, but just normal people who are cooking food for homeless people or, doing nice things for people. And you gotta work hard to find these news. The big news outlets are only interested in scandals and troubles and wars, and it's very unbalanced. There's millions of people doing kind things a whole day. So, enjoy, find one of those news outlets. I get this stupid magazine from my university where they brag about all the students and the professors. And it's so nice to read, Oh, this one just found out how the virus grows this bump on it and how to take it off and, stop the virus. And this guy this secretary who's been in the McLean House at Princeton for 34 years just passed away. And she made coffee for people every single day. And it's nice little things, So rejoice in the things that other people are doing. Jesse, then Kulshi. That's later. What happens after that? Request? Yeah, ask him to teach. Okay, ask him to teach you. And it doesn't mean Tsongkhapa's going to pop through his portal and start talking to you, okay? Yeah, he's probably going to send you a Mixed Nuts book and say, I hope you open it. And I've been teaching a lot online. I've been teaching some deep, deep books, and I have some students who prefer that, and they are very brave and they are unusual. And I say, can I teach you something that's not easy and that you probably won't understand? And they're like, yeah, go ahead, Gisela. And then I'm like, listen, when you study things, when you try to read things you can't understand, that affects you more than listening to things that are comfortable for you. Okay? Things that are uncomfortable to hear because you don't understand them have a very powerful effect on your mind. And then things you know and things you're familiar with, to hear them again is not very helpful. Okay? So I have a small group of students. I'll say, can I just teach you something that you're not going to understand for 3 years? And they're like, yeah, go ahead, Gesla. And they really work hard. And they don't understand it, but they try. And when you try, it changes your brain. It changes the intelligence of your spiritual intelligence. It changes it. But just keep doing the same thing you always heard, or that doesn't change much. Okay, so struggling mentally with new ideas is extremely powerful on your mind. Okay, I'm just saying, try it for 6 months or so. Read stuff you have no idea what it means, and just struggle. And that's gonna change your entire being, much more than reading something that you're already familiar with. Okay. So anyway, you're asking for teaching. Don't forget the most powerful thing. When you ask for teaching, they might send trouble people who teach you stuff. Okay, people who hurt you teach you more than people who help you. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. So, when you ask for teaching, watch out what you ask for, because you might get a whole pile of irritating people showing up, and that's a blessing. Okay, and I know you don't believe it, but it's true. When you have to struggle with somebody, you advance. You become more advanced. And if you're just comfortable with people you know, you don't change much. Okay. All right. What's the next one? Yeah, ask them to stay. And I have people all the time. So please stay. And I'm like, yeah, I hope I can. Yeah, I also would like to stay. But it's a terrible tragedy to come close to wisdom and lose it. That's a real tragedy to come close to come close to being able to do a great retreat and then lose it. It's a terrible. I don't think there's anything more tragic than that. And talk to this famous movie maker. He's been emailing me. I never met him in person. And he just got cancer. And he said, well, okay, I'll do the chemo. And they said, don't bother. And he's like, what? Can I do anything? And they said, go home and die. Don't take up space in the hospital. Your wife can keep you as comfortable as possible. Here's Brompton's cocktail. You know what this is? Yeah. It's, what do you call that stuff? It's like heroin. It's like straight heroin. They said, here, when it gets bad, when it gets into your bones, take this, and then you'll die. You'll, say anything you want to say to your family, because you won't be able to talk after that. You'll just be a vegetable, but at least you'll be alive. And so, it happens. Things change. You lose opportunities while you have a chance to do a 3-day retreat. For God's sake, do a good one. Take the time, take the chance, do it. and do that retreat. Okay, what's the last one? Yeah, dedicate the good karma. Okay, like give it away to people. I can't avoid the image in my mind of a fire offering, and when we do fire offerings, like at Diamond Mountain, when the smoke goes out to the sky and the wind blows it away, I always imagine that sooner or later it will touch everyone, right? That mini pollution will sooner or later the particles of the offerings during the fire offering will reach all beings, and do some kind of imagine the good karma being sent out like that. Okay, and that's all. What I'm saying is hard work, especially study. Oh, one more thing. Okay, Kamala Shila, in the stages of meditation, he rushes through the actual stages, the 9 levels of meditation, and the 5 antidotes, the 8 antidotes, the 8 antidotes to the 5 problems. He rushes through that. I was like waiting for him. I thought he would. His book's kind of long, so I thought, wow, he's gonna give some detail. He doesn't. He rushes through all the stuff that's on the chart. And then he spends like 20 pages on Soso number topa. Yan dapar Soso number topa. Okay? Yan dapar Soso number topa. Which means cogitating. Okay? In English, cogitating means to sit in your meditation cabin. Right, Connie? For 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. And just think about stuff. Just think about why stuff empty. And don't forget, Kamala Shila went to Tibet. He and his teacher were involved with these intense debates with other practitioners about the usefulness of thinking about nothing. There was even some intrigue. Somebody was murdered. And it got hot. And don't forget, he was in this, he was there, And so he spends about 200 pages in English defending thinking about emptiness. He spends about 200 pages defending trying to figure out emptiness from the books. And he says, you have to. He says, it's not a luxury, and it's not some scholarly thing, and it's not boring, and it's not difficult, and it's not technical. It's the only way to see emptiness directly, And he goes on for, in English it would be, I don't know, almost 200 pages in English. And he's just repeating the same thing over and over again. You have to struggle in meditation to understand about emptiness. And then it will turn into the direct perception. That will turn into the direct perception. You gotta get all those mixed nuts books. You gotta struggle through them. You gotta try to understand the 38 proofs to emptiness. You must do that struggle. And he says, without that, forget it, And then the last thing he says, okay, and then we can stop. He says, in the Boy Scouts, when they teach you to rub sticks together and make a fire, God, you don't know how many days we spent trying to do that in Boy Scouts. It is possible, but it's difficult. You can do it with a bow and a string and a bowl and, certain kinds of shavings from certain plants. You can do it. I've done it. But it takes about 4 hours or something. A match is much easier. We always had matches hidden in our pockets. And then he says, I'll tell you something. Struggle 4 hours with the stupid 2 sticks. And then he says, what's really fun is throw the stick in the fire first thing. Once you get the fire going, throw the stick in. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, see you guys later. They were like, what? Yeah, got it. Well, yeah, use the stick, blah, 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 make the fire, and then throw the goddamn stick in the fire and burn it up. And what he means is, there is a state of non-conceptual, direct perception of emptiness. But the way you get there is through thousands of hours of conceptual thinking, okay? Of thinking. It's like the stick that makes the fire. Then okay, you can throw the stick in the fire and it will burn up in the fire of direct perception of emptiness. But you can't make it without the stick. You can't make that fire without the stick. It's a very beautiful image. It's a very, very beautiful image. And by the way, that's where he says in Sanskrit, I think it's Davyam or something, Davyam Bhumi Ashva Pashyet Davad. $1,000. No, I'm not serious. Show the horse the course before you run the race. It comes from him. I didn't know that. You don't take a horse out for a race without showing him the track first. Ride him around the track for a couple of days, and then you go on the race. So it's like, read the books on emptiness, study them deeply, and then run your race. Okay. Now, what are we doing with the Om Mani Padme Hum? It's very simple. I also used to, this is a whole stories of things I didn't believe from my teacher. He said, oh, do this mantra 1,000 times, or do it 10,000 times, or do it 100,000 times. You know, lock yourself in a room and do this mantra. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get to that. That was my thing with my teacher. I learned that you're not supposed to say no. You just can delay. You know, I'll say, oh yeah, as soon as I get some couple of weeks off of work, I'll definitely lock myself in a room and say Om Mani Padme Hum. You know, it's on my list of things to do, bucket list. You know, before I die. You know, and then he went on a trip to Europe to see John Belsengi was his name, Tucci's teacher. He went to go see him in Rome. And so I was kind of stuck in the house alone, and I said, well, he's got this guest room. And I had another monk with me, and he said, I'll cook if you want to say mantras. And so I said, yeah, you know. So I went in Rinpoche's guest room, which I built, and I did a 2-3 week retreat, and I just did Om Mani Padme Hum, you know. And it's a very, very powerful mantra, and I don't think a lot of people understand the meaning of the mantra. But Om is called Gonje, which means the door that opens to the mantra. So Om is the door of the mantra, and then Hung at the end is Shurtuk, which means to stick the sacred dagger in the ground and say, may it be so. You know, Hung means that. So Om is like, I'm about to say a mantra. And then Hung is like, God damn. You know, and so between that is just money bid me, right? And money means a gemstone, okay, a jewel. And it's funny because it sounds like money, which you need to buy a jewel. And then Padma means a lotus flower, okay? So, and it's very important that it's Padme, which John will tell you is the which case? Locative? Yeah, in the lotus, okay? The jewel in the lotus. So it's not just jewel lotus, it's jewel in the lotus, okay? And it's a reference to Tantra. It's a direct reference to Tantra. And it's funny that it's a mantra, you know, if you're the kind of person who believes it's possible that your spiritual partner could be a Buddha, then it's very important to you. And the people who criticize that are doing Om Mani Padme Hum all day. It's so funny. Because it means have a spiritual partner. It's so funny that the people who criticize the practice of a spiritual partner, which Buddha followed and taught, say, well, let's go do Om Mani Padme Hums instead. But Om Mani Padme Hum means, I hope I meet my partner. And it's funny. To me, it's funny. But anyway, so you can think of the jewel as love and bodhicitta, and you can think of the Padme as inserting it into understanding of emptiness. So if you can, I like to call it a marriage of emptiness and compassion, or a marriage of emptiness and love, okay, for other people, then that's perfection. And that's Buddhahood. Okay, so try to put your compassion into emptiness, okay? And that's Om Mani Padme Hum, okay? So if you understand a little bit about it, and you do, I would try to do 10,000. Sometimes you can try to do 100,000. It's not stupid to count them, okay? That's another myth. It's very cool to count them. And it's cool to reach 10,000. And it's cool to reach 100,000. And things happen at 10,000 that don't happen at 9,999. I'm telling you, okay? So set yourself a goal and get a rosary and try to do, and keep track. I keep a hatch mark, 1, 2, 3, and then cross 5, 500, like that. So actually keep a count of how many you do. And it works, okay? It really does work. And trust me, I thought it was stupid, and I thought it was a waste of time, and I thought it was superstitious, and it's not. It's very, very powerful and very beautiful. So try to do 3 days of mantras. You're supposed to not rush them. You're supposed to say them clearly, or it doesn't work, okay? It doesn't work as well, okay? So don't rush them so fast that you're like, blah, 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 blah. But, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Try to use the third finger of your left hand. That has a special prana, and it's more powerful. Okay, it's uncomfortable for the first few days, but hold your rosary here. And I had last story, Grandpa's last story. I was in a train station in India, and I was with a couple of hippie friends, and we didn't know anything. And we saw these Tibetans rushing into a little side room. And we're like, hey, what's going on in there? And they said, Ling Rinpoche's there, the senior tutor. He's sitting in there, And we're like, wow, that's cool, man. Can we meet him? And they said, well, you can try. And they said, normally you got to have an offering. So we run across the street. We bought this crummy little cake at a bake shop. And we rushed back to the waiting room, and he's in there, and the train's coming. And we said, we got the cake, we can come in. And they're like, yeah, okay, go in. And we met him, and we had an extraordinary meeting. But he was going like this the whole time. And he didn't have a rosary. He did so many mantras that he decided he didn't need the rosary anymore. So he would just be like this all day, And it was kind of a weird thing. We're like, what's going on with his hand? And then I was doing mantras. I said, where's does he need a rosary? He could go buy one. And they said, nah, he doesn't need one anymore. And okay, so do your mantras and enjoy. Okay, and work hard. Okay, when you work hard, when you study things you don't understand, you learn more. When you study things you do understand, you don't learn as much. Okay, all right. See you guys later. Good luck on your retreat. Thank you. Yay.